and welcome to the second night of the 13 Nights of Halloween, where I am talking about a bunch of book-related things and spooky things and getting ready for the spooky season. So please like, subscribe, be my friend on social media, and leave a comment down below on what you're thinking of the series so far, what kind of videos you might like to see during the 13 Nights of Halloween. Because I would like to see some more engagement on my channel and talk with you all about book things, about spooky things, and about life in general. So, let's get on with the video. Today I am going to be talking about some short horror books. The longest book in this pile is probably 160 pages. So yeah, we've got some quick little Halloween reads to kind of get you in the mood without having to dive into anything too big. First off, I have House at the Bottom of a Lake by Josh Malerman. This is the first book that I read by Josh Malerman, and then I read Bird Box, and after that I think I read Goblin, and this is probably still my favorite of the three that I've read. This is a very, very short little novella. I think at one point it was actually out of print, so I'm hoping it's back in print. But this is about a house at the bottom of a lake and ends up becoming kind of a metaphor for the romance that is happening between the two people who go on a date on the lake. So romantic, but also quite creepy. I love this book, but the idea of this actually being a thing makes me really uncomfortable. I don't remember the word for it, and I wouldn't even say that I necessarily have a phobia. Maybe I do, but I don't like deep, endless things. So the idea of diving down into the ocean and knowing that there are miles and miles and miles of just empty, watery space below me makes me so uncomfortable. I don't really go in the ocean above my knees. I love learning about space, but I hate the idea of going to space because the space is endless up there. So that makes me really, really uncomfortable and made this book all the more enjoyable to read, because there are some things that I can explore in books that I just can't do with movies or real life. Then I have Prosper's Demon by K.J. Parker, which I really don't hear a lot of people ever talk about. This is following an exorcist. So usually whenever we follow exorcists, we're looking at the people that they are exorcising. You have the famous exorcist, you have A Head Full of Ghosts, which is more TV show oriented, and then you have Prosper's Demon, which follows the exorcist as he is chasing the demons. We do focus on a specific person who needs to be exorcised, who is a very important figure, but really this is mostly about Prosper and the demons that he meets, in particular one specific demon, because the idea is that there are a limited number of demons in existence. So when you exorcise a demon, where does that demon go? Usually hops over into another person, and you'll eventually run into them again. And there is this one specific demon that Prosper finds over and over and over again. And he's like, I am so sick of seeing you. Stop exorcising me. Just let me have a home in this one person, please. And it's this hilarious idea. We follow Prosper on his journey to find this very important person who needs to be exorcised. And it's really hard to exorcise super important people that everyone has their eyes on. Highly recommend for a short demon-centered book, and especially if you like exorcism material. Then we have the Stepford Wives. I do have a full review for this book that I will link up above. Between the movies that were made, I would highly recommend I think it was the 70s version. The newer one with Nicole Kidman has a completely different ending, and I've never been super comfortable with how that ends because I feel like it kind of ruins the point of the book, which is the patriarchy and what it does to women. And Ira Levin takes that concept and turns it into a more physical form. So the original 70s movie is very, very close. It's a very good adaptation of this book, and that is the one I would recommend because that movie creeped me out so much. But you have this woman who moves to this suburban area, and the women there just aren't quite right. They're a little off. Check it out if you want to know more. Loved that book. Very well-loved classic for a reason. Then I have Psycho. This is about 160 pages, so it is the longest book on this recommendations list for short horror books. I did finally watch the movie recently. I always see that famous scene in the shower where she's screaming and she gets stabbed, and that was like the most exciting thing in the movie. The movie overall is very slow. It's similar to a lot of stalker horror movies that I've seen, and that kind of genre tends not to be very interesting to me because it is so slow-paced. But Psycho, the book, is actually really short, and I am hoping during this series to actually film a video talking about movies and books and how the mediums work differently, and I want to do that with my husband because he knows film a lot better than I do, and we've both read a lot of these classics that have been turned into films, so I think that would be a really interesting discussion. But yeah, they took this really short little book and turned it into a much longer movie, and I don't think it really needed to be that long. But while the idea of this book focuses on this killer and the people who are disappearing, I feel like when media talks about Psycho, it focuses so much on the killer that we don't really get a lot of information on the people involved, and the book actually talks a lot about the people involved. The woman who gets killed in that clip that we've all seen from Psycho, she actually has a really great background that we get in this story. We learn about her work life and her love life and why she ended up at the hotel, and I didn't even realize that that was part of the story whenever I saw that clip from the movie. I just figured, oh, it's this guy who goes around killing people and we follow the guy. We don't. We actually follow a lot of the people who are getting killed by him. Next up, The Grown-Up, which I feel like I actually can't tell you that much about because it's been a couple of years since I've read it, but this Halloween season I do want to reread it, and it's super quick. I think it's more of a short story, really, than a novella. But this is Gillian Flynn. It's the last thing I know of that she wrote. I would really love it if she would get back to writing and come out with more books, but of course I have no idea what her life experience has been like, and maybe she has a lot going on. But I've loved all of her books, and The Grown-Up is no exception to that. This is about a fraudulent person who's pretending to be a psychic, and she ends up visiting a Victorian home and finding out that maybe ghosts are real. So I just read that from the plot summary, and I need to reread this because I know I loved it, but I don't remember that much about it, just that it was good. Now, you all know how much I love Dracula. I'm not recommending Dracula because it's not a short horror novel, but Carmela is. When we think of classic vampires, we think of Dracula, but Carmela is actually much older. This came out before Dracula. It was written... Well, this one says 2012, but it's definitely older than that. It was written in like the 1800s, I believe. 1872 is what the foreword said. So it was written 25 years before Dracula was. And this... in the popular discussion, most people are thinking that this is a lesbian vampire novel. Vampires do tend to be a very sexual monster in their depictions, so it could just be a sexual thing in general, but vampires tend to kind of fit a queer monster idea a little bit better, I think, because of the intimacy of biting someone, and this follows someone who is going around at this party, I believe it is, and there's this mysterious person there who is sucking people's blood. And yeah, talks a lot about women and vampires, and you get the queer vibes from this. Lastly, this was a gift a couple of years ago from Hillary from Melted Books. Still one of my favorite vampire books, and that is Fangs. If you want something short and cute and romantic, this is it. This is a graphic novella by Sarah Anderson. If you look at some of the artwork in here, she is familiar. I couldn't tell you right off the bat what all art she's done, but At least for me, whenever I look at the art, I can remember having seen it on social media, particularly Facebook, I think posts a lot of that kind of stuff. But this is a romance following a vampire and a werewolf, and in most vampire media, particularly in movies, where if there's one creature, there tends to be multiple, vampires and werewolves don't get along. But in this book, they're in love with each other, and it's just the cutest thing. So maybe not so much horror, but it does have creepy creatures in it, so counting it. That is going to be it for this video. Here's my stack of short little horror books for you to pick up this spooky season. Please like, subscribe, be my friend on social media. I will see all of you tomorrow. Bye, friends.